We are students of the Bachelor of English Literature,
Faculty of Humanities,
Udayana University.
And the video is a project
for intermediate listening lesson assigned Mr. Ediwan.
Hello, my name is Gusti, Kade, Dyanilla, Kusuma, Putri. My last student number is 066.
Hello, my name is Putu Kharismayanti. My last student number is 069.
Hello, my name is Febi, and my last student number is 074.
My name is Wenny, and my last student number is 076.
Hello, my name is Dyanilla, and my last student number is 079.
English listening test.
6 Minutes English from bbclearningenglish.com.
Hello, this is 6 Minute English from BBC Learning English. I'm Beth.
And I'm Neil. Phew, I've spent a day in meetings, then shopping, then collecting the kids from school. I'm exhausted, Beth. What have you been doing today?
Oh, not much. Just sitting around, doing nothing, relaxing and kicking back.
Lucky you. Don't you have any work to do?
It may not look it, Neil, but I'm actually as busy as a bee. If you've seen nature documentaries about worker bees flying from flower to flower, you probably think animals are always on the move. But the surprising truth is, away from the cameras, most animals spend most of their time doing absolutely nothing at all.
In the natural world, where finding food and shelter is hard work, why have some animals evolved to do nothing? And if it's good enough for animals, would being lazy work for humans too?
After what I saw from the podcast earlier, which entitled The Benefits of Doing Nothing, hosted by Beth and Neil, I can proceed for the intro that Beth and Neil started to talk about what their works for their entire day, which was Neil told us that he has went to shopping and pick up kids from school, meanwhile Beth just doing nothing, but she perceived herself as busy as me. And then they moved to the next topic, which was what the nature works and how the nature works, which is Beth showing us the example of bees worker in their daily life. When a camera setting for them is bees are in much move, they're always in move. Meanwhile, away from the cameras, bees actually not in very in move. They actually the so-called lazy bees worker. And then move to the next topic. Neil told us about how this bee lazy worker are adapted into human, and that is the topic of this podcast, which entitled The Benefits of Doing Nothing. And next to the next topic. Thank you.
2. That's what we'll be discussing in this program, and as usual, we'll be learning some useful new vocabulary as well.
But first, let me work up the energy to ask you a question, Neil. Of course, some animals have a reputation for lounging about. Lions, for example, can sleep up to 20 hours a day. But what is the slowest moving animal on Earth? Is it A, the giant tortoise, B, the three-toed sloth, or C, the koala?
Well, I think it's the three-toed sloth.
OK, Neil, I'll reveal the correct answer at the end of the programme. Now, it's no surprise that lazy lions love relaxing, but even animals with reputations for being busy spend time doing nothing. Look carefully into an ant's nest, and you'll see around half of them just sitting there motionless. Here's Professor Dan Sharp.
So from the video that discusses the concept of laziness in the animal kingdom, exploring why some animals have evolved to spend a large portion of their time doing nothing. The host discussed how many animals are being busy are actually spend a lot of time, and they use the example of ants, noting that about half of ant colony can be observed sitting motionless.
Dan Charbonneau, an expert in insect behaviour, discussing the lazy rock ant with Emily Knight, presenter of BBC Radio 4 programme Nature Bang.
Dan's research has focused on ant colonies, a species called Temnothorax regatalus, or the rock ant.
I think ants are sort of a symbol of like industriousness. You know, they have this whole tiny little society going on that's kind of similar to ours. As some idealized version of what humans might be, if we could only like pull it together and all work together, we could be as industrious as the ants. But then when you look at it, you know, roughly about half the colony is inactive at any given time.
We think ants are industrious or hard-working. Groups of ants called colonies seem tiny, perfect societies where everyone works hard for the good of the group.
Then why are so many of them inactive? One possible answer is that they're reserve ants, ready to step in if disease.
This part of the podcast discusses how boredom can be surprisingly useful. While many people see boredom as something negative, psychologist Sandman argues that it is actually important. She believes that constantly trying to be productive is overrated, and that boredom can lead to creativity and innovation. For example, she suggests that invention like bread or fire might not have happened without boredom, pushing people to explore and experiment. However, in today's world full of constant stimulation, it is harder than ever to truly feel bored. And because of that, we might be missing out of the creative benefits that boredom brings.
If disease or disaster strike. But could it simply be that they don't work because they don't need to? Would you get out of bed on Monday morning if you didn't have to?
Maybe the ants can teach us a thing or two about relaxing, but wouldn't it get boring just sitting around all day?
Not according to psychologist Dr. Sandy Mann. She thinks being productive, working to produce a lot for the amount of resources we use, is overrated. Boredom has its benefits too, as she explained to BBC Radio 4 programme Nature Bang.
Would humans have invented bread or beer or fire, if we hadn't been bored and were wondering what on earth would happen if we mix this with this, Are all these sorts of inventions the mother of boredom?
But in this world of constant stimulation, switching off is harder than it's ever been.
That's why we're constantly swiping and scrolling and looking for the next big thing.
In this part of the audio, the speaker talks about a paradox to get rid of the unpleasant feeling of boredom. We actually need to let more boredom into our life. Dr. Mann believes that humans might not have invented things without the curiosity that comes from being bored. The speaker mentioned the idea that boredom is the mother of invention. Based on the well-known saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Instead of fearing boredom, we should open ourselves to its benefits by switching off, relaxing, and slowing down. That's something we can learn from animals. At the end, the speaker revealed the answer to question about the world's slowest animal, confirming that the correct answer is the three-toed sloth.
Big thing and a new thing, and we get bored of things very quickly. So it's a kind of paradox. To get rid of this unpleasant state of boredom is actually to allow more boredom into your life.
Dr. Mann doubts humans would have invented things without the curiosity that comes from being bored. Boredom is the mother of invention, an idea based on the famous proverb, necessity is the mother of invention, an idiom meaning that if you really need to do something, you will think of a way of doing it.
Instead of fearing boredom, we can open up to its benefits by switching off, stopping worrying or thinking about something and relaxing. Slowing down helps too, something we can definitely learn from our animal cousins.
I think now is a good time to reveal the answer to my question, since we have nothing else to do.
You asked me to name the world's slowest animal, and I guessed it was the three-toed sloth. Was I right?
In his scenes, the speaker talked about the speed of the sloths really slow, and then that makes some algae really growing up in their gulch. The speaker is continuing to make a summary from what they tell in this video. We learn about the vocabulary, some praise, stop doing things, and relax. And then he said that the adjective industrious means hardworking. Someone is productive is be able to produce a lot of research that use. He also gave a proverb which means that if you really need to do something, you will think a way to doing it, and finally stop worrying and relax. The video is end by inviting us, the listener, to sit down, close their eyes, and do nothing. Finally, it's end with a closing sentence of goodbye, and that's the end of this video.